reminder, we do have mics on either side. If you'll just raise your hand, we'll get one to you. Start with a quick opening statement from Coach. We'll jump into questions.
Well, first of all, so excited. Our guys are eating right now, and we have our first meeting at 2 o'clock, and then we'll meet all day today on different things, just kind of camp do's and don'ts, and then we practice in the morning. So starting year number 30, and I don't know if have ever been more excited for a lot of reasons. I feel really good about this team. I'm excited about this team. It's very talented. We've got some great people. We just got some great humans on this team that are some really good stories. But then whenever you turn around and we're fixed to open up the south end zone, we moved into the south end zone about a week ago, and it is absolutely incredible. We had women behind the brand last night. We had 780 ladies that went through our women's clinic, and they were blown away whenever they got to see the field level locker room and the field level club and recruiting suite and everything like that. And so I don't know if it's ever been a better time to be a Red Raider, and I'm just blessed, so lucky that I get to lead this team, and can't wait to get on the grass tomorrow. I mean, I don't know. I remember whenever I was 24 years old, and it was my first time going out in Crowley, Texas, and coaching, and I know how excited and nervous I was, and I don't even think it comes close to tomorrow whenever I get to get out and coach this team. And so with that, I'll open up for questions.
Obviously, there's a lot of talk about the offensive line. I guess, what's your kind of timeline on getting that group solidified, and particularly, I guess, just getting the center and right guard spots figured out?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it's going to probably be all camp. This is going to sound crazy for a 315-pound guy. I think he may be 318, but Sterling Prochet ran 20 miles per hour on the GPS the other day during our team run, and kind of tweaked his hamstring. And so he'll get to do some individual and stuff like that. We're going to slow him up. I don't want to really mess with our left guard, center, right tackle position. So we're going to let Caleb play some left tackle, which he's done before, because Sterling will be back within the next week. That allows Davion Carter, who's played a lot of right guard, to play right guard. When we met yesterday, the biggest thing that we've got to do, and we're really lucky because we have a lot of depth, is Davion's got to play enough center. We've got a really good competition going on there. And then Caleb's got to play enough right guard to where he's getting the reps that he needs to. The good thing is you've got a month. I mean, we're fixing to go from July 31st hitting each other to August 31st hitting somebody else. And so you've got a month to kind of get it all sorted out. I definitely would like to have it where we could have 2 weeks of those guys together.
And I talked to Coy a little bit about the program that they did last week. How did that kind of come about, and what kind of benefit did you feel like they got out of that?
Yeah, that's year 3 that we've done that. They have 4 different years that you get to do, so we are on year 3. It's been something different every year. They do such a good job. The program, the guys that come in, all have been in military action. I mean, heavy action. I mean, you got special forces that are in that room, and they do a good job of talking through some of your team leaders, just talking through team chemistry, and then it stresses the whole team. We had different guys. Braylon Lux came up and led one group. Josh Kelly came up and led a different group. You had your boat leaders, and so it allows some guys that maybe are leaders, but they're not seen maybe as a total team leader. It puts them in some situations where they have to be more vocal. And then anytime you're in the mud and the water and uncomfortable and it's cold and you just don't feel good and sand's everywhere, it just builds camaraderie that everybody's doing the same thing, and it's difficult and it's different.
Coach, what are some of the top position battles you're looking at heading into fall camp?
Man, I think the number 2 running back, the 2 Cams are going at each other. You've got Cam Valdez, who's got more experience, but Cam Dickey had a great spring. The tight end battle, I mean, we feel like that we have 3 NFL tight ends, so where do they fit in? And like with Jalen Conner, he's fully back. He's been back for a month. I mean, where all does he fit? I mean, we've talked about wildcat quarterback. We've talked about fullback. We've talked about tight end. We've talked about outside receiver, finding ways to get him in a lot of different spots. Now you add Micah Hudson back into the mix. He's fully back. Who does he go after? Because he's going to go after some spot. And so what does that look like? And then on the defensive side of the ball, I think the secondary, I mean, we have C.J. Baskerville, who's played a lot of football that we feel really good at boundary safety. Braylon Lux, I think he's one of the top corners in college football, has played a lot of football. And so now you've got some young guys, free safety, strong safety. A.J. McCarty's back now. Now he's eligible to play. And so you add him, a guy that has started games in the Big 12. So I think the secondary, like one of the corners and the two safety spots, free safety and strong safety, there's a lot of competition right there who's going to be starters. But defensively, it's good to have as many guys as we have to play. I mean, you've probably heard me say this, but our first year, Boog and Tony played 700-plus snaps. I think it was like 760 and like 767. That was 560 more snaps than anybody else in the country. And the next guy that was close to him played in the national championship game. So they got to play 2 more games than we did. And so to have 7 defensive tackles, there's a lot of competition in there. I mean, it hasn't been like this to where we've been able to come into a fall camp, feel good about our starters, but know our starters can't feel good. Like there's a lot of competition on this team.
Just had a recruiting event this weekend here, and I know you can't mention specific recruits, but the South End Zone was something brought up a lot by them, the renovation, all the facility upgrades. What kind of impact do you anticipate these upgrades having on recruiting?
I think it's going to be incredible. I mean, whenever our fans come out here in game one and see the South End Zone, they're going to be blown away. But whenever our recruits go through and walk through, and then whenever you're able to add the walkthrough and being in the Womble Football Center, it's even going to go up a notch. Like, I think we have the best facilities in the country. It will compete with anybody, and it's definitely the most unique facility in the country when you're talking about that you're bringing the football stadium, the indoor, and the football facility all together to where you walk into one, you can go to every one of them without going outside. You're going to 5 different fields, without having to, bus to a field or anything like that. And so it's a very unique facility.
Coach, you mentioned A.J. McCarty. I'm curious about what his plan is for the fall. I know that he was playing star, competing with Brennan Jordan there, I guess. And I know that you mentioned that he could play some free safety as well. What's the plan for him, and what's the competition at star like? Yeah,
we're going to let those two guys fight it out. The battle really is who is, like, I feel like Chapman Lewis is our starting free safety. So the battle is like who's going to be the number 2. Jordan Sanford was that guy and got a lot of reps in the spring. But we want Brennan Jordan and A.J. to fight it out. They'll both play, every single week. I mean, we feel good about both of them. They both had really good spring summers. But, at that free safety position, we feel good about Chappie. We even talked today, if Macho Stevenson, if he has a really good camp, does he push to be that 4th corner? Now can we move Devin Cromwell to be a free safety, which he's played safety before? I think the biggest, ask about competition, I think the biggest competition right now on this team is what does the secondary look like past the starters? Like, who's going to play what? Does Javion Wilcox, he had a great spring. We feel good about him playing boundary safety. Does he stay there and back up CJ? And so there's a lot of competition with our 2s there too, and our 3s to see who's going to be able to play on Saturdays.
I don't have the numbers obviously with me right now, but when you're looking at the roster, it feels like a lot of the turnover from where you entered with this roster and where it is now, a lot of it's your guys that you brought in and your recruiting staff as well. I guess, how do you feel and where do you feel this roster is compared to the ideal roster that you'd like to have at Texas Tech to win the Big 12 championship?
Yeah, we feel really good. It's funny, I counted it up the other day, and I probably missed a couple guys, but you're probably talking about 10 or less guys that were here whenever I first got here. I mean, y'all probably can look at it like Caleb, Barron, Taj, You start going like that, Mason Tharp, it might be a little bit over 10, but, this is, whether it's been through the transfer portal or it's been through high school recruiting, this is our roster, and we're excited. I mean, whenever you're looking at some areas, we had to add a junior college offensive lineman and 3 transfer portals because the guys that we recruited are still, like Sheridan Wilson is finally in his 3rd year. Most offensive linemen, that's when they really start figuring it out in college, and they're mature enough to play at a really high level. So our O-line guys are still babies, but like Dylan Shaw, he's a number 2 left guard. Feel good about him. Danny Seals is going to play guard and tackle because we do have some other tackle bodies, and so I think we feel good about that. But overall, I feel good about this team. The key, and I mean, if y'all don't know this, I know everybody in this room knows this. The key is keeping the quarterback healthy. Like, bottom line, if you think through that, and ifs and buts, all that stuff that if you think through, I mean, we probably win 2 more games if we have a healthy Baron Morton last year. We probably win at least 1 more game my first year if we have, quarterbacks that are healthy throughout the whole season. So the key is keeping the quarterback healthy. We feel great about the roster. We've done a lot of stuff with Baron. He feels great. He's ready to roll tomorrow. But he's also, there's a mindset there of some things that we have really talked about and are going to work through camp to put him in some situations to where he has to throw the ball away. That, y'all know Baron, man. He takes hits that necessarily sometimes he doesn't have to take, and to extend the play to just, hey, get the ball to check down. The check down is usually Taj Brooks. Anytime Taj Brooks has the ball in his hand, that's a good thing. And then you're not getting hit, or throw the ball out of bounds, and let's play the next play.
Go Sean, then Collier in the back.
Coach, you're the only Red Raider coach to be above 500 in conference play back-to-back seasons since 2004, 2005. Which position group is going to have to make the biggest impact so you can have back-to-back seasons above 500 in conference since Spike Dykes in 1992 to 94?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do on each side of the ball. I think the O-line, it's there. I felt really comfortable coming out of spring, but the O-line's got, if you're talking about our first 2 years, the O-line has to make a jump. And then just because of the youth of the secondary, our secondary, there's some guys that really have to grow up. We can move some people around to put a really old secondary on the field, but that might not be our best secondary. It'd just be more experience. And so I think those are the two, but the O-line. But at the end of the day, to do that, for us to play meaningful games in November, our offensive skill that we feel like we have made a huge upgrade, our offensive skill has got to be who they are supposed to be. Josh Kelly has to be Josh Kelly. Caleb Douglas has to be a home run hitter. Coy Aiken has got to continue to do what he does. Micah Hudson has got to be the freshman that we think he is. Like, that offensive skill, and then adding in the tight ends. I think when you come August 31st and watch us play, the most dramatic part of this team is going to be the offensive skill.
2 years ago, you said after the Oklahoma game that they were going to win it. You were going to win it, then tear down the south end zone. The south end zone is now up. What are the emotions about having that project complete, but being able to show that to other people and to recruits in the future?
Yeah, we're excited. Our guys literally are like, we moved in last week and Caleb Rogers is up there going through everything, and then we walked down. I kind of gave him a tour, and he's just blown away. Every guy that our guys, most of them came back last night. A couple are coming in this morning. They're just blown away, and I can't wait. Our first meeting is going to be field level in the south end zone, and I can't wait for them to get down there and see everything because, it just ups the ante. It just ups it's a good thing. I mean, CJIU says it all the time, pressure is a privilege, and whenever you have something like that, there is some really good pressure that is being put on you to be better. And so I can't wait for them to see it. I can't wait for our fans to see it.
Coach, you kind of just mentioned him. Are there any restrictions on Barron this fall, and what are you looking for health-wise from him to be able to play 12 games this season?
Yeah, No, there's no restrictions. We're going in. He did a great job building everything up from the time that he went to Jacksonville until now. We had him on a pitch count, and we've just increased that pitch count every single week. And so we feel great him coming in tomorrow and ready to go. I joked about it, but I really do wish I would have had and I probably could find it from the Cal game until now, because he's always in a sleeveless shirt, even more now because he thinks he's got a better body. But I wished I had that, because just his neck and his shoulders are so much bigger. It's a mixture of all of it. It starts with me, starts with Kitley with the play calls, getting him to understand that, a check down, getting the ball out is a good thing. I think the one good thing, y'all know that have been a proponent that we screwed up the opportunity to fix the player-to-coach communication or coach-to-player communication. But the one good thing is I think there's going to be some alerts to help him get the ball out that Zach can help him with. And then, Clay McGuire and the O-line have got to do a good job of protecting him, the running backs when they're in pass protection, and then the tight ends when they're in pass protection. I mean, it's all of us. It starts with me and Kit, and then, getting Barron to understand, 1 yard versus him playing the next series. Him playing the next series is more important than that 1 yard, unless it's the last yard to win the game.
Coach, you mentioned no limitations on Barron. How about Micah? I know we saw a tweet from you a couple weeks ago, but
Yeah.
Is he 100% ready to go?
Yeah, he's full go. He's full go. In fact, his wide receiver trainer posted something this weekend where he was training and running routes and doing a bunch of stuff. He's really hungry. Micah's, I've said this 100 times, he's one of the most unique people I've ever been around in my life. But he's, you can tell there's a chip on his shoulder from the standpoint of he understands the expectations and the hype around him. It won't even come close to what he thinks he can do, what he believes about himself. And so not only does he want to prove us right, but he also, there's going to be some chip on my shoulder. I'm going to show my teammates exactly who I am too. And so he was with Juice in his office, and they were hanging out and talking through practice tomorrow. So he's ready to go. He looks great. He's 194 pounds, and really excited about see what he can do.
You guys talk to him separately about those expectations, or do you just let him go and see how he deals with it? Because clearly they're kind of through the roof, I would imagine.
Yeah, if he was not so mature and, I might feed the expectations even more. I sent him a highlight video of there was something on social media the other day of Florida State, and was it Warwick that was so good that it was absolutely, and I sent it to him, and he was like, I got you, Coach. I mean, I might feed it a little bit just because I have a lot of expectations of him, and also know his maturity level, he can handle it.
You guys also announced yesterday Josh Kelly would be wearing 3. I guess just take us through that decision and why he embodies what that means for the program.
Yeah, what I love, there's another guy on our team that reminds me so much of this. So whenever I got to the school in Waco, Taylor Young, who was a legend at Baylor, was playing linebacker, and he wore number 1. And Coach Rule took all the single digits away. And Taylor said, Coach, whatever you need to do to make this team better, just realize I'm going to get my number back. And I saw this dude just work his tail off. Well, Josh, whenever we recruited him, he wears number 3. And so whenever I was recruiting him, I told him, I said, look, if you want to wear number 3, you've got to earn it. It means something in this building, and this is what it means. And I went through the whole story. And I said, so in the spring, if you're here and you decide to be a Red Raider, then we're going to put you in a different jersey. And he goes, you'll have me in 3 when we start camp. And it's a guy like that comes out, works every single day. He makes his teammates better by his work ethic. And, he's such a positive. He really has a great vibe. He's very positive. He's another guy. He is an alpha. It's crazy. Micah and Josh remind me a lot of each other. Josh is probably a little bit more outspoken, but he's also older. But like whenever they walk on the field, their mindset is, I am the best player on this football field, and I'm going to go prove it to everybody.
What is the wide receiver room looking like right now with, Josh Kelly coming in and Douglas?
Yeah, so it depends on personnel-wise of what we're going to be in and everything. I mean, Kitley and Juice have a lot of things that they have to work through because we've got 3 NFL tight ends also. So you got John Carlos Miller that's going to be on the field at different positions. You're going to have Jalen Conner at different positions. But if we went out there and we were kicking off right now with coming out of spring, Caleb Douglas would be at the X. You would have Josh Kelly at what we look at as the Y, and then you would have Coy Aiken at the Z. You've got Dre McCray, who can play inside and outside. We want to playing more inside. You have Josh Kelly that can play inside and outside. And so we're going to play Josh inside and outside. And then you have Micah. We're going to work him because he didn't go through spring. We're going to work him inside. And then you turn around, you got Brady Boyd, who can play any position on the field, Jordan Brown, who could play any position on the field. And then I'm excited, Kelby had a really, really good spring. I mean, TJ West had a good spring. And so that's a really deep room. And then you have some guys that can really stretch the field. We're a lot more athletic, and we're longer overall whenever you're talking about that position.
Go ahead, Don.
Joey, when did you finalize your 105 and
120? Yeah,
120.
They did another, like last year they blanketed to 120. They've done it again, which is awesome. The next year will be the 105 to where it's the total 105.
Okay, and going forward, at this time next year, how do you anticipate any roster crunch getting to 105 at this time next year, or is it just going to be you don't fill as many spots of guys who leave or graduate as you normally would?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because we're getting really close to our number. We probably have another 2, maybe 3. And then if a unicorn pops in recruiting, but we probably have another 2 spots. So that would put us at 19. I'd feel good about that. That's probably 5 to 6 lower than what we've signed over the last 3 years. That has to do because we've signed so many freshmen, and we've got a lot of guys that will be coming back. There'll be a crunch. There'll be guys, if it was right now, there would be some guys that would be on the team that you've got to say, hey, we're at 105 and this is where we're at. I'm really glad that they decided on that number. I was getting worried. Mike Ramirez actually did a study for us. Georgia's trainer was the first one to do it. But if they would have stuck at 85 and they were trying to look at it like an NFL model, the problem is if one of our guys gets hurt, we can't go sign somebody off the street. We're at 85. So if you go into that Texas game last year, if you count the guys I was trying to redshirt and the injured, we had 51 healthy players to play against the University of Texas, which makes a huge difference when you're talking about roster. So there are going to be some discussions on them like that. It's just like in the NFL, who's number 100, 101, 102, what positions does that look like, how many guys you're carrying in each position. I'll always carry 4 quarterbacks just because of my first 2 years. But it's going to be one of those deals that there's going to be some guys that competition will be really heavy whenever we get through the season.
A moment ago, or at the start, you said Sterling Borchet is out for a week or so?
He'll be running and he'll be going through Indy tomorrow, but we won't put him through any kind of one-on-one, anything that he can really stress that hamstring. It's a hamstring. We've done everything as soon as we do anything kind of like that, we do MRIs, and he's good, just not ready to go full speed.
Is there anybody else that would be in a yellow jersey to start with?
We're going to keep Dingle in a yellow jersey for the first 2 weeks. Still shoulder. That injury is an injury that we do not want to put him in any contact until he's at 100%. He's pretty dang close, but we're going to keep him in a yellow jersey. We've got set. Trying to think. I mean, we're really healthy. It's probably the healthiest we've been in the 3 years that we were going. We got some guys that got like some hamstrings, have tweaked their hamstrings, but I don't think anybody that won't go, at least individually. But we're as healthy as I think we've been going into camp.
Let's see. You mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Micah, you said it was going from progressing from half volume to three-quarter volume. I think. When has he hit full volume yet? Or
Yeah.
is he starting full volume?
He's hit full volume, and then he'll start full volume tomorrow.
Have you awarded number 6 to a defensive player yet?
I haven't. There is a fight right now, and I mean, it's mostly in that linebacker room. You got Dingle and John Curry, and then every once in a while Macho will ask, so then somebody's going to be happy to get number 12. Justin Horn, I mean, they're all asking for that number 6. They know it's open, and so we'll see who comes out of camp with it.
What's your expectation for Isaac Smith after the time that he's missed?
Thank you for asking about Isaac. It's funny. Starting with me, I think sometimes we forget about Isaac Smith and how he just came on like a freight train, played so well against OU and played so well against Ole Miss. And whenever he got hurt last year, I thought our depth could handle that kind of injury, but what we missed was his toughness. He has had a great summer. Our guys, we've had about 18 to 20 guys that every Saturday go and one of the instructors was talking about different guys, like this guy's really tough, this guy's really tough. But he said, if you want to know who your alpha male, the dog in this group is, it's Isaac Smith. And so he's fully back. It's going to be interesting because he can play F and B. So our field end and our boundary end, we'll start him more with our boundary end. That's where he ended. He's about 255 to 258 pounds right now, and he's ready to go. Man, that guy's ready. It was really going back to the program. You ask about the program. He was a boat leader, and Mason Tharp was a boat leader, and it was really cool to see those guys step up and be more vocal. You know, they were over 12 other teammates, and to see them step up and be really vocal, it was really good to see. I'm glad he's back.
Finish with Nathan.
You've talked before about this new look Big 12. There's that availability to kind of step up and be that head honcho. What about in terms of like the entire athletic department with softball making a big splash last week and everything? Do you feel like this is kind of the year for Texas Tech to take that step of we're kind of the new leaders of this new look conference?
Yeah, you know, we've got a great opportunity as a whole. You know, Coach McCaslin's done a great job with his roster. Krista has done a great job with her roster. I mean, it was exciting. I mean, I'm all in. I was fired up that we got the pitcher, but we also got some really good players from different areas, you know, for the softball team. But it is, I mean, the opportunity's sitting there for somebody whenever you look at different sports. You think about softball, two of the best programs in the country, not just in a conference, but in the country, both left. And so there's a huge opportunity to be that team. And, you know, our whole, if you go back, I think we have been, and y'all can tell me, I think we've been 3-3 through our first 6 games, my first 2 years. We've been 8-2 in November and December. We want to keep that, playing tough late, but we've got to get started. We got to get started fast. We've got a phenomenal opportunity to do that. 5 out of the first 7 are at home. Ask our fans. This is going to be a very exciting team. This is going to be a great brand of football, and you get to be the first of the first of the first. And it's always cool to be the first to enjoy something. You get to be the first group of fans in Jones AT&T to see the South End Zone. That's only going to help us, to your question, cement ourselves as a team that could be the team of the Big 12. That's our expectations. We're just going to – one thing we're going to do is we're definitely – y'all have seen the shirts. We talk about it all the time, just focusing on being 1-0. You know, we got a 2 o'clock meeting, focus on being on time and being 1-0 at that. at that point right there. And then we'll have a meeting tonight that will be a long meeting with all the checks and balances of, hey, being 1-0 in that meeting, being locked in and being where your feet are. And I think we've got a great opportunity. I'm excited about it.
All right, that'll do it for Coach McGuire. We'll have Coach DeRuiter up next.
My stunt double is coming in.
Everybody's ready?
Everybody good? Yeah. Who wants to lead us off with the first question for Coach? Start with Jarrett and Jarrett.
Okay.
Hey, you want to go? Go ahead. Coach McGuire just mentioned about the competition in the secondary. Who are some of the younger guys that you expect or that you're looking for to step up in fall camp in this season?
Well, we got a lot of young guys. I think a key position for us is going to be that field safety position, replacing Rabbit. Rabbit had a couple of great years with us and was really the heart and soul of our defense. But I think Chapman Lewis got some great reps last year in the times that he had to go in, had a really good spring. Jordan Sanford played some for us a year ago, so that's going to be a good position of competition for us there. In the offseason, we got Boom Wilcox coming in to battle with CJ at the other safety position, and he showed us some things in the spring that got us excited about what he brings. And then at the corner position, I think a couple of our young corners really stepped up. Jalen Peoples hadn't seen a lot of playing time, but had a really good spring, and so I think he's going to give us some depth and competition there at one of the corner positions. And at the other corner, Mo Horn has really come on, and I think people maybe hadn't heard of these guys before. Obviously, we're losing our entire secondary from a year ago. But these guys, I think, bring a lot of talent, and it's up to us as coaches to bring the most out of them.
You mentioned Wilcox showing y'all some stuff. What kind of player is he? What does he bring to the defense?
He's a good-sized guy with length. He's very, very physical, runs well, and he's got a bad temperament when he runs into people. So as a defensive guy, you kind of like that.
How do you feel about your defensive tackle positions? It feels like you guys are really deep there, maybe as deep as you guys have been all through the tenure. Really, I'm personally excited to watch Braylon Carroll get in the pads, but I guess who are you excited to see and get into fall camp?
Well, it's funny you mention that because you lose guys like we had in Jay Boog and Tony a year ago, and all the snaps that they've had over their career, you think, oh my God, how are we going to get through? Well, I think our personnel staff's done a great job of recruiting some highly talented guys, and between Z and Coach Ayu, really developed our front four, depending on how you break them all up. But inside in particular, Duda and Quincy, I think, are poised to have really, really good years. I think you mentioned our depth. I think there we are as deep as we've been. The first year we were here, Tony and Jay Boog had to play, I think, 600 snaps each, which is crazy for that position to play as hard as they do and play as many snaps as they did. We'll be in a position where we can roll probably about 3 deep right now and feel really comfortable that we're going to have some 300-pound guys there that are going to be fresh. They're going to go as hard as they can, and as soon as they can't, the next guy goes in. And you mentioned DB and James, who got in here during January. Wish James could have got a little bit more time, on the field. He got dinged up, and he'll be ready for fall. But we're excited to see what he can do because he's another 320-pound plus body. DB showed some quickness, and he obviously had some productivity, the last couple of years at Rice. Then the young guys, Braylon, I think, is poised to have Rigsby is poised to have a really good year. And Jaden Cofield showed us some things in the spring to just kind of scratch the surface on his potential. And that's not to mention Trey McAlpin. So, I mean, we've got some big athletic bodies that I know we're excited to see.
Back on corner for a moment. Can you explain a little bit more of what Mo Horn has done to really step up? And he was pretty impressive to me as a pressed corner. during his few steps last season. So I just
I think last year really gave him some confidence. You know, when you're playing against a couple veteran or behind a couple veteran corners like he did, you don't always have as many opportunities. But in the opportunities he had, he did not back down. I think that gave him confidence. You know, people threw at him, which would make sense. You know, let's throw at the young guy. And he stood in and competed very, very well. Well, he took that confidence into the spring, and I think he took another step. Not only is he just, you know, playing well in press, he's doing a lot of things well, whether he's blitzing well, you know, getting off blocks. I think he's a very physical corner, not only in his press, but in you know, getting to the ball and making firm tackles. So I think he's done a lot of really good things to impress not only our coaches, but his teammates.
Nathan and Sean.
CJ kind of talked about, you know, with the position switch last year, he said he didn't feel like he was as sharp as he wanted to be. What leap do you kind of expect him to take this year now that he seems pretty set at boundary safety?
Yeah, you know, we weren't really fair to him if you're just saying, you know, how do we develop you the best in this 1 year? But he filled a role that we needed him to do, and like an unselfish player, he did a great job, you know, jumping in with 2 feet, but didn't have those background reps. Well, now he's got a lot of banked reps. And so the more you play anything, the better you're going to get at it, just because you don't have to think. You can go out and react. And I think going through spring, seeing all the different formations and shifts and motions, the communication that our safeties have to make, it was much more comfortable for him coming out of spring that, hey, I know this position like the back of my hand. He's a smart player to begin with, but now he's got that extra half a step of quickness because he can anticipate things without having to think through, okay, what's my assignment on this play? Who do I got to communicate to?
What are you excited about this? Your third year with the defense here. What are you excited to, I guess, see with the continuity of it?
Well, you know, I'm really excited that we've had continuity in our staff. I think our guys have a lot of faith in what we're doing. You know, it's good that Coach McGuire thinks that, you know, we're doing things the right way. We obviously have to improve, but to be able to have the same terminology for our guys to understand this is how we play defensive football, I think is huge. We've got some good, young, talented guys that maybe haven't seen the field, but we've seen what they've done against some really highly talented guys on our offensive side. And I think that'll only give them confidence when they play against the rest of the teams we're going to play against.
Sean and Jared.
Coach, as the Big 12's changing with teams added, teams subtracting, why is this team the one that will make its mark defensively in the conference this year?
You know, I don't know that it's relative to the new teams coming in. I mean, it's just the nature of football now. You know, everyone's moving, and yeah, I know, you know, a couple of the programs from being on the West Coast. Certainly, Coach Whittingham and his program is you know, set a standard on defense on the West Coast. So they're going to bring a defensive presence in. You know, Arizona a year ago did a really nice job, particularly on defense. Colorado, you know, has got a lot of talented guys. You know, they're going to have a lot of, you know, noise around them because they're going to have some talent. And so they'll present a unique challenge when they come here in November. But we're not worried about those teams coming in. It's about us perfecting how we play defense. And we're getting so much better from a depth standpoint of guys understanding if someone goes down, someone can come in, and there's not a, you know, big chasm between a 1 and a 2 where next guy up and let's just keep rolling. And I think our guys feel like because of that experience of the guys we have coming back, because of the depth we have, because of the talent we have, we can challenge as one of the top defenses in the conference and help us to our ultimate goal, which is to win the conference championship.
Which position group has shown the greatest strength so far from spring that you expect to show even further growth in fall, and who do you want to step up even more?
Well, it's hard to pick out one group. I think you look at our defensive front four, we've got a lot of depth there and guys that can make plays inside as well as our edge guys. I'm excited to get Isaac Smith back out there. You know, I know it killed him, you know, it killed us, you know, as many guys that we you know, got hurt out and him go full go. Inside linebacker wise, we feel really good about our 2 deep there with, Ben having a terrific year, getting pressed in a little ahead of when he's supposed to, but it always helps you that next year. Jacob Rodriguez, having him back, having him healthy. I think John Curry's going to surprise a lot of people. Not going to surprise us, but just people haven't heard of him. He's going to make a lot of plays for us. And then Bryce.
So how did Isaac's year off being able to have that year to look from a 30,000-foot view and look at how he can be a better player?
Well, a couple things. I think anytime you're removed from it, you've got a different appreciation for, the detail sometimes that while you're in it, maybe you don't, especially for the first time as a freshman, you don't appreciate. He was there at every practice. He's watching film with our guys. And when it eats you up that you can't be out there, you're doing whatever you can to soak up football. When he came out in the spring, you could tell that that's what he did, because some guys would come after being off for 9 months and forget calls or whatever. He's out there correcting guys. He's making sure everybody, when he couldn't go live, they're doing things right. And so I think he's, one, a very intelligent player, but two, it's extremely important to him not only to get it right, but so that he can hold himself to a standard. He wants to be able to hold everybody else to that same standard. So I'm really excited to see him get on the pads and be able to go live and get back to where he was that productive guy he was in the bowl game for us.
We'll have Jareth and Collier that finish with Don.
Coach, obviously losing a lot in the secondary, losing those guys that have been there, since y'all got here. But a lot of the guys that are going to start rolling through that are, maybe in their second year or starting to just come in now are track stars at one point or another. How much different does that group look athletically compared to when y'all got here to now?
Well, obviously I'm biased. I think it looks a lot longer. We've got, better size. As teams have come in to watch us, they take notice. And I've got friends right in the business, and they're like, you guys look different. And people who came here in the spring, who saw another evolution of guys coming in, we just have a different looking team. And I think it's matching the vision of Coach McGuire of where we want to go to. And certainly James Blanchard and his crew have helped us elevate, the standard of what we're looking for as far as athleticism and length. Not everybody does that, but certainly that's one of going to be one of our hallmarks. Is we're going to try to take as athletic of a guy as we can and make him into a great football player. And I'm excited to see what this crew can do, because you know what potential is. You haven't done it yet. And some of these guys have great potential, but we've got to put them in position where they can actually be productive players. And I anticipate that they will, but I'm also looking forward to seeing it happen here in the next few weeks so that we can put them out there with confidence that they're going to do it against other people.
And I think Coach Yates had kind of talked about this in the spring, and I asked Lux and CJ about this earlier, but just the secondary being more physical. How do you kind of instill that, and what have you kind of seen that, they are starting? Like, what did you see in the spring, and what do you want to see of just them being more physical?
Well, I think, it starts off with a mentality and a standard that we hold our guys to. When we got here, and not to, denigrate any, coaches before, everybody does things a little bit differently. And so sometimes guys have ingrained habits that are sometimes hard to break. The guys that are playing now are primarily guys that have just been in our system. And so you're able to teach them from ground up how we want to practice, how we want to lift, how we want to, play. And, I think when we first got in here, guys, as much as they could, the guys that were already here tried to, do things, everything that we asked them to do. We had great buy-in, but it's not always like you started at ground zero. The longer you're a college football player in a certain way of doing things, it's hard to change. It's just human nature. These guys understand what our standard is, and because of competition, if they don't meet the standard, next guy's going in, and that's the greatest teacher is, hey, I'm going to lose playing time if I don't do it to the standard.
You mentioned John Curry a moment ago. We actually asked Ben Roberts about what he saw in him, and he said that he saw a lot of himself in him. I mean, what do you see in John that kind of, you mentioned a lot of people don't know him, but why we will know him by the end of the year?
Well, he's a guy that I think when we signed him was about 190 pounds, and he gained about 25 pounds from when he got here till last fall. really filled out. He's a long, rangy, athletic guy who football is very, very important to. So he studies it. There's certain guys that things just come natural to him. And again, not to say that he's not working hard at it, because he does, but things just flow with him. And he just seems to be in the right position all the time. When he gets there, he's very, very physical. A lot of things we like to do with our inside linebackers, we want to blitz and maybe put them on an edge. We put them on an edge. He could be in the mix as an outside linebacker for us and being part of the pass rush. So just all those kind of things give him the skill set that makes him a very valuable tool to us as far as being able to job swap with him, whether he's playing inside or outside in different packages. And just the intelligence that he plays with. When we install things, he just picks it up naturally. And again, it's not like he has to think about it. He just plays. So I'm excited to see when we get other people to play against, to see how productive he can be.
Go ahead, Don.
Tim, one of the changes that the NCAA made recently, allowing more coaches to actually coach on the field, how will you put that into practice with your staff, your people?
Well, Ryan Connery is going to be working with our star position. He's been doing that in an off-field role, which is always kind of tough. You want to take ownership. He's going to take a little bit more ownership of that position, which has been great for him to develop as a young coach. And then I think just that extra attention on those guys is going to help them. Jay Sean had already been working with us because he was a grad assistant. T.Y. wasn't with us last year, but that position, he's going to be working with the inside backers primarily. Because Ryan's going to be with the Stars and T.Y. is going to be with the inside backers primarily, I'll have more time to work with C.J. and the outside guys, particularly in the coverage aspect of the outside guys. C.J. is elite as a pass rush specialist. But while he's working with some guys, I can work with other guys in coverage. And so being able to use different guys, where I was coaching the Stars with Selwyn, depending on different drills, I think that'll help us, just having those guys. And then Dave Martin, who's been in an off-the-field role for us, we can use him now. Now, he's a former head high school coach who was very, very successful in Oklahoma. He's been a top-down guy that, after practice would, see things. Well, now he can be on the field coaching our guys up. He's got a defensive background, so he'll be working with me and working with our scout teams to make sure they're doing things right to give us the best looks we can.
So I assume when you heard that was coming down the pike that you were all in favor of it?
Yeah, I was not opposed to that. Absolutely. I mean, to me, the more eyes you can have on players, the more you can hold them accountable, the more you can, teach them in detail about what they need to do to get on the field. And so, no, it's been, and then I also think for the young coaches, giving them an opportunity to have a little bit more ownership, just only enhances their resume so that ultimately they can be a, full-time position coach, at whatever level they can, and then work their way up.
Shifting to Braylon Lux for a moment, obviously Malik is gone, Rashad's gone, so a lot of spotlight and a lot of focus is on him to be your number one corner. He's not the biggest guy in the world. How would you say he compensates for being not the biggest guy, but still being productive?
I think Braylon's got one of those traits that all great corners has. He's got tremendous confidence in his ability. And as a corner, you've got to have the ability to be able to turn off a bad play in your mind and hey, go on to what's next. Hey, you may caught one, I'm getting the next one. And, the young corners, a lot of times it's hard because you're in the spotlight. You don't make a play, officials do this. And everybody knows in the stadium, who gave that play up. But he plays with a tremendous amount of confidence. I think he's more physical than our two corners were before. Now, he does lack the length of those guys, but he will go up like he did against Texas and compete for footballs. You throw one up, he's got tremendous ball skills. He can take it away. He had one or two other picks that got taken away because we had defensive penalties on the particular plays. Otherwise, he would have had more impact. But I think he's really got a chance to have an outbreak year. And then you got Mo on the other side who's really stepped up. So I think – while we're going to miss, Malik and Rashad, It's particularly from a length standpoint. They don't look like those guys, obviously, but I think production-wise, we may even go up.
How's your new office?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a lot better view than I had in the old building. You know, it's funny. You know, I walk in there and it's like this office should be a head coach's office, but there's a bunch of them that are like that, and they've done a tremendous job. The work that the development people did with our boosters to put that project together, and the timing. I mean, when it first happened, I thought there's no way this is going to happen, but we're in there operating. Obviously, there's some things that got to keep getting done, but we're going to work with them, and we're going to have, I truly believe, the best, if not one of the best in the absolute country. And I was in Eugene, who's got the same, one of the best. They were the standard bearer for a long time. My office here has a better view than one I had out there. Very, very similar trappings, but I think we have just as nice here, and it's brand new.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right.
I'm good. All right, let's go ahead, Justin.
Coach, with all of the options that you have with offensive skill, the wide receiver room, the tight end room, Taj, I guess, how many different options and different personnel groupings could you even think of to put your guys in the best position to win football games this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a task. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We got a lot of very talented skill players, and we got to find different ways to package personnels, package formations, and try to do our best to, get that ball, in everybody's hands a little bit. There is still one ball that goes around, and so, again, it's going to probably differ a little bit week to week based off what the defense has given us, but we got a good idea of how we're going to try to package some guys and move some guys around to try to get the ball in their hands and, get them into some priority matchups and some stuff like that.
Heading into the fall, I know the offensive line has been the biggest question mark or key for you guys this offseason, but how do you feel about that group as a whole and even the intricacies in the interior as well?
Yeah, I was very pleased coming out of spring with those guys. We've got some older guys in that room that are in that starting lineup that have played a lot of ball. They haven't all played together as much, so that's still something that I want to see progress over the next 4 weeks before we get to ACU. Just that continuity and that gel together, those guys, and where they can lean on each other a little bit up there in the front. But, I think Coach Clay McGuire's done a really good job with those guys. And, again, glad we don't have to play tomorrow, so we get those 4 weeks to keep getting these guys going. But, again, pleased after spring with where they're at, and they've done a really good job this summer as well.
How would you compare this offensive skill group to previous ones that you've had? Is this the most explosive group, or what term would you key this group to be for you?
Yeah, I do think we're explosive. That's something that we're going to really focus on this year, is trying to create a little bit more explosive plays, which, first and foremost, that starts with a healthy quarterback, I believe. But, yeah, man, I mean, you look at the receiver room, those tight ends, got the best running back in the country. I mean, we've got a lot of explosive players out there. So, it's definitely up there with some of the teams that I've been around over my 12 years of coaching now. And, again, just excited to see these guys put the pads on and get to work.
Coach, McGuire mentioned that Cam Brown was going to be involved with the offense a lot this year. Can you kind of touch on what he'll be doing?
Yeah, we're going to use him in some different facets. I mean, I think, 2 years ago, y'all saw some stuff, especially in the latter end of the year with how we did some stuff with Donovan Smith a little bit. And again, hopefully we can keep number 2 off his back all year, and it's more of package plays and some stuff like that. But Cam's a special athlete, man. He hit 23.1 miles an hour on the GPS this summer. I mean, he can really, really roll. He's right at 238 to 240 somewhere right there, but you can't tell. I mean, he looks like he's 225. So special athlete, special kid, really sharp. So excited to use him in some different facets. And again, we're gonna tinker with some stuff in fall camp and then kind of move forward as the season progresses.
And kind of referring back to the quarterbacks and keeping them upright, have you kind of solidified a starting 5 O-line, or are you still kind of working through that?
Yeah, I mean, we feel good about a handful of them, but we're still going to have some competition. I think Coach McGuire mentioned that Sterling's going to be a little bit in out this first week or so, so we're going to have to bump Caleb back over to left tackle. So again, which is good for us too. Now we can be a little bit more multiple and moving those guys around and create some competition, which is all we're about here at Texas Tech. So I feel good about those guys, but again, still looking forward to seeing how we progress over the next 2 to 3 weeks before we really get into game week ACU.
Hey, Coach, can you break down where the 4 quarterbacks are heading into fall camp?
Yeah, clearly Barron's the starting quarterback for us right now, and kind of like we've hit on as well after spring. If we played a game today, Cam Brown would go in as the number 2 quarterback. But early on here for this, I'm going to still create that competition between those other 3 guys, and so they're going to be moving around. I'm going to put them in some adverse situations from time to time, really mix them in with the 3s, the 4s, the 2s, really just rotate those guys around and do some different play calls with each of them and see how kind of they handle it. And the thought is that someone's going to take over that role and really run away with it here, hopefully within the first week or so of fall camp.
And then it appears you have a very talented tight end room. Without giving everything away, how do you plan on utilizing that group?
Yeah, I think you got to move those guys around. I think, again, you look at start with like Jalen Conyers. Jalen Conyers is your true, new age tight end, if you will, your Travis Kelce type guy that's you can move him around all over. You're going to see him at number 1 sometimes out there lined up on a corner, or see if maybe they bump a safety out there on him. You'll see him there. You have your Mason Tharp, who's your true tight end, what I say, your hand in the ground, 3-point stance kind of guy, but don't let it fool you. He's got really good ball skills, and I think the biggest thing that's held him back the last couple of years since we've been here is the injuries, because I think when he's played, he's done some really good stuff for us, and he's looked really good. He's actually probably of everybody this summer, the guy that I really saw come on the most was probably Mason Tharp. Super proud of him and his leadership that he's brought to this team, and especially that tight end room, with these 3 new guys that have transferred in, and being a leader for those guys and helping those guys get their feet wet and get rolling. And then, John Carlos Miller, he's another freaky kind of guy, and he's kind of that middle between the other 2. And so I've got to do a good job, our staff has to do a good job of finding certain packages that, hey, when we're in this formation, well, this is going to be JC, and then when it's this package, it's going to be Mason, and then we go over here, now it's going to be Jalen, and so just trying to find those deals, and clearly first and foremost, we hope we keep them all healthy so we can have those guys all year. And it's a game changer in the red zone, short yardage situations, being able to get into some heavier packages now, and being able to run the football, some play action stuff off that too. Having those kind of guys around's been nice. And again, didn't really see a whole lot of Jalen, this spring, so excited to get him going. He's looked great this summer as well.
We'll go to Cole next, standing in the back row, followed by Sean.
Coach, how do you see the competition at wide receiver playing out, bringing in Josh Kelly and Caleb Douglas, and then, like you said, Jalen Conyers, who Joey called basically an extra wide receiver the way he can catch the ball?
Yeah, again, we've got to see how it goes. When you look at the receiver room in general, you got Coy Aiken coming back. You got Josh Kelly transferred in, who had a huge spring for us. You got Caleb Douglas, very explosive, long, can really blow the top off guy. You got Micah Hudson, true freshman, coming in, who's uber talented. You got Brady Boyd, who's played a lot of snaps here. You got Jordan Brown, who's played a lot of snaps here, and then we got a bunch of young guys that I could keep going. And then you throw in your Jalen Conyers, who's, again, he's that true receiving kind of type tight end. So, again, we're going to package some stuff in some certain ways to make sure all those guys are getting on the field and getting the best looks we can get them. But really excited to see those guys compete this fall, just because, we're really deep in that room. And so just excited to see those guys go at it.
Coach, you've been part of Texas Tech with Dad being here for a while. You've seen this campus and this facility grow. What does the South End Zone project mean, the finality of it being, and just that emotion of now it's your turn for a Big 12 championship?
Yeah, it's huge. I was actually talking to Coach Juice about it the other day, and we first got into our office as we were all looking out the balcony, and I was reminiscing on 1999 when I moved here, and this was just a real small press box. There was none of this. The north end zone was nothing, and the bubble was behind us, and it was just the old FTF wasn't even there. And so seeing it grow, over the last 25 years for me has been super special. And man, I can't wait till you guys get to go see that. It's it's first class, and so exciting, you know what I mean? And, I think first and foremost, it shows where Texas Tech is right now and where we stand and where our athletic department's headed, and the expectations that we have at Texas Tech, that it is our time to go try to win a Big 12 championship.
With Taj being 1,167 yards short of the enhanced part record, plus you have a plethora of talented position players to get the ball to, how do you balance getting players the ball, getting, Taj the yards, and all together?
Yeah, I think that you said the right word with balance. I mean, we've got to try to be as balanced as we can be. When you look back at last year, again, just had a lot of things happen, and then at second half of the season, we got a little bit more run heavy due to what we feel like we needed to do to win football games, and maybe at the beginning of the year we were a little bit too much pass heavy. And so when you really look at it, it's really just trying to be a balanced team, balanced offense, to where we can get Taj his number, which we're going to get Taj his number, but also, again, at the end of the day, I mean, we want to win football games, and teams early on in this season, they're going to look at Texas Tech in 2023, and they're going to see how many carries Taj Brooks was getting, and they're going to pack the box and expect us to try to throw it early on. But we've got to do a good job of trying to keep it as balanced as we can. That way, everybody's trying to get their touches, and we just keep the defense on their heels versus knowing, hey, here comes a run. Now, there's going to be those situations where it's 4th and 1, and hey, we're going to give 28 the ball and let's go. But as far as the full game goes, you're really trying to be a balanced offense to take pressure off a little bit off everybody.
Go ahead, Don.
Zach asked Tim a moment ago with the NCAA rule changes allowing more people to actually do on-field coaching. How will you put that into practice on your side of the ball?
Yeah, so for us, really, we're kind of bumping up 2 coaches, if you will. Kirk Bryant, he's my offensive analyst that works strictly with me at quarterbacks, so he'll be doing a lot of stuff with us. Again, just more eyes, more coaching. We do 2 spot during our camp season, so we've got half the guys on one field, half on the other, so now we can be a lot more hands-on when we do split those fields up. And then Trent Vasey, who works with Coach Perry and the running backs, who was recently promoted this spring from wide receiver GA to running backs, and he does a really tremendous job as well. He's been helping me with personnel and some of those things on game day. So again, just being able to really be more hands-on in practice, and when we do split up, we're trying to get maximized reps. Those guys are able to do a little bit more than they were able in the past. So that's mainly how we'll use those guys. And same type thing on game day. Now these guys are able to have headsets on and coach on the sideline during games, and so all that stuff's good for us.
During y'all's February self-scout, self-evaluation, that period of time, one of the things Joey mentioned was obviously improving the screen game, the wide receiver screen on the perimeter. From your standpoint, how do you plan to go about that?
Yeah, we did a lot of soul searching on that in that February and March time before we started spring ball. And, I think if you talk to anybody within our football program and saw how we went about our screen game in the spring, they'd say it was vastly improved from the fall. We studied a lot of other teams and tried to find the best ways to get these guys the ball, get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. We changed some things on how we've practiced that. So I'm excited about our screen game moving forward because, again, when you look at fall, it was not very good. I think we hit just a handful of screens that were all right. But you look at spring, and we hit some explosive plays on some screens this last spring. So just building off that momentum and continuing to sharpen up those details and making sure we're getting the ball where the ball needs to be and the right ball placement and getting the blockers out, on their landmarks and all that good stuff.
Any final questions before we let them go? All right, thank you.
Don't worry, y'all get the legend Kenny Perry up next. So we'll let him finish it off.
What's up?
Coach, you've talked to us time after time again about how special Taj is. One last ride with Taj. What does that mean to you?
I guess you guys are finally starting to listen to me. Honestly, I said it last year. I think you guys knew kind of where he was going, but I keep saying it. He's the best running back in the country. I know people, you know, you get stats for rushes and this and that, but to see what that kid's done that man has done every game, from breaking tackles to running when there's no holes, pass protection, catching the ball, he's just a complete running back. And then you throw that out, and he's one of the best kids I've ever been around. I mean, he's the first one here. He's the last one to leave. Always asking questions, yes sir, no sir. Everybody in town loves him. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to be sad because, like I said, I always say I got a top 5, you know, with Taj. Hell, he's probably number 1 now. I mean, the guy's just unbelievable.
Talk about the addition with Jack in special teams, and what does he offer to allow to?
You know, I've always been you know, I like the traditional punt. You know, I think America's gone away from that when we got the Australians in here punting. So I've never really done. But Jack, the reason I like Jack is because, you know, when he was at Weber State, he was really trying to work on becoming a traditional punter. You know, because the NFL, that's kind of where it is. And so he had a big leg, and just the fact that we could use some rugby stuff, it kind of adds to what we do, because we do a lot of stuff formation-wise, and you know, we kind of try to game plan versus people to take away the rush. So I think he's going to be pretty good. He's got a strong leg. He's a great person. He's willing to work. You know, I think he's exactly what we want. You know, obviously losing Austin, you know, who's the best, you know, if not one of the best in college football history, but definitely the best here. It's going to be fun with Jack. He's going to give us some new tools to work with.
Coach, Joey talked about the competition behind Taj between Cam Valdez and Cam Dickey. What separates those two right now, and how do you see that competition playing out?
I think they're two different running backs. You know, Cam Dickey's a little bit more kind of a younger version of Taj, physical kid. He's already 215 pounds. Where Cam's, you know, elusive, and he can run, he can break away. He's kind of that breakaway threat. You know, you saw games last year where Cam will have a run. You know, he was always so close to breaking it. He had, you know, I guess versus Houston, he had some good, you know, runs. But those two, you know, you're going to have, you know, in this day and age, you have to have 3 guys. So, but yeah, there's definitely going to be competition between them, just because that's what you want. I mean, we got Taj, we know that, but you know, if you guys know football, you're going to have to deal with injuries. So you got to get some other guys ready to play, and those 2 guys are our next 2. They're the 2 competing for that, you know, second, third running back.
Speaking of injuries, deep snapper, who will get most of those in August? And then when you were hearing about roster limits, and all these things, and you're coaching a lot of the specialists, how concerned were you about just kickoff guy, field goal kicker, backups, all those things that take up some roster spots, and some coaches don't believe in some of that?
Well, I think going back to the snapping deal, you know, Jackson's really far. He's way ahead of where he was. He's been snapping. He's been running. He's been doing everything. And the best part is, you know, we went and got Rylan Vagano, who was, you know, he's probably the number 1 deep snapper in the country with that class anyway. So just I thought it was great that we went ahead and made him a scholarship player, because, you know, you don't get an opportunity to go after those guys very often. So when you have one of those kids you can go get, we chose to go get him and put him on scholarship, knowing that Jackson still had 1 year left. But, you know, the way things worked out, just the injury kind of forced our hand. But it's really going to be good for us because, you know, Jackson will be ready. Jackson's unbelievable. I mean, he's a great deep snapper. But it'll help us having Rylan, you know, in those games, because, you know, I can go back, Holly, SMU and Kansas, that I had deep snappers go down. Luckily, we had guys behind them that, you know, didn't hurt you, because those guys can change the game with a bad snap over someone's head here and there, or, you know, skipping the ball back there. So you got it. Those guys they're so important. And then, you know, kind of with roster limitations, you know, me and Coach have talked about that. You know, the one thing I always, you know, if you'd love to have that dual threat guy that can kick and punt. But unfortunately, you know, the kickoff, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. If we start going to the NFL rule, well, then it makes sense that you don't have a guy with a stronger leg, because it doesn't do you no good to kick the ball in the end zone. So then I think you're changing your whole mentality to more of a you know, a guy that can put the ball where you want it, and the guy doesn't have to have as big a field goal leg. So, you know, you're still going to have a deep snapper, a punter, and a kicker. So that's not going to change. It's just, you know, it is going to change kind of how many guys you take behind it. So that could be an issue.
Coach, who have you had rotating in at returner?
Well, we obviously, I think we have one of the best in kickoff returner. It's a little different. People always go, well, if he can do kickoffs, he can do punts. It's totally different. The ball, the spin of the ball, the wind takes it. So Dre's been doing a lot of that this summer. Obviously, he was definitely a guy last year that changed some games for us. He was one of the top 10 in the country, and my goal is, like I said, I want to lead the country. He's been working, and then Josh Kelly's got great hands. Micah Hudson's going to be back there some. He did in high school. So we'll see. We've got Jordan Brown did it 2 years ago, so we've got guys. It's just you guys have heard me enough. I want to score every time we touch the ball. I either want to block a kick or return the ball. So and it's not just about those guys. It's about the guys you have up front being able to hold guys up, be able to hold their block and things like that. But yeah, we've definitely have weapons that a lot better than when we first got here.
Just to kind of follow up on that returner question, I guess as far as like punt returner goes, how do you kind of evaluate those guys there and who you could maybe see separating themselves to take that job?
Well, the first thing is obviously field position. You don't want to make, you've got to have a guy that can catch the ball. I think you're looking anywhere from, 6 to 8 punts a game sometimes. So you got to have a guy that can, catch the football. And then I also look at it from the standpoint of a guy that can change the game. So, some guys, you get some of these punters that they don't have as much hang time. They're gonna outkick their coverage. So those are a little bit easier. There's a lot of pressure on guys when you're running down there and you're trying to catch the ball in traffic. So that's a different type of training. Then, like I said, in kickoff return, it's pretty easy. Most right-footed kickers are going to kick the ball deep left. It's just the way it is. So you get a guy that, the spin's easier, the ball doesn't move as much. So you just, we train our guys. We do a good job. Coach Johnson works with those guys year round. We've been doing, ever since the season got done, we've been kind of IDing guys. We got some young guys that I think are, also going to be able to help some. So just, right now the main thing though is field position. You don't want to turn the ball over, and kick special teams. When you do that, boy, you're in for a game, and you just try to keep those situations from happening.
We saw Reese. He made a couple of pressure kicks in the spring game.
Yep.
I know Gino had a good year last year, but is Reese pushing Gino for the starting place kicking?
Sure. 100%. I think, that's one thing I'm sure Coach talked about. We got competition everywhere. That's probably the best thing from year 1 to year 3. We have a lot of competition, and that's a spot. Reese had a big leg. Didn't have when he first got here the spring that we want him to have. This last spring, he did. If we were to play, I told those guys if we were going to play the next week, he was going to be kicking. So Gino's made a lot of field goals though since he's been kicking in college too. So the one thing I like to say that Gino has is he's got game experience, which Reese doesn't have. So I take that into consideration. But you know what? Come Wednesday, we're back to square one, and we'll see who comes out.
Coach, I talked to Gino earlier about his mental, and obviously he was able to finish pretty strong last year after the Wyoming game, and he was talking about utilizing the sports psychologists, and I was just curious about your thoughts of how important the mental side of kicking is for them.
I think you guys know me. I'm mental, so I need all the help I can get sometimes. So wherever Gino's going, maybe he can help me out. But no, he did. I think it's important. I think any edge you can get as a kicking is really there's a lot. It's mental. A lot of it is. So those guys have got whatever edge they get. I tell them, let's go find it. We have great sports psychologists here they talk to. I don't know exactly what they tell them, but after the Wyoming game, whatever she told them or that he told them, it worked. So hopefully we can keep those kids know that anytime you can get certain things that can help you out, make you a little sharper just in that situation where. Because those guys, they go out and they got, like I tell them, you're going to have 2 to 3 chances. And you know what? You got to hit on those chances, because the more you miss, then the more things are going to be working against you, and it's going to snowball. So, we try to put them in good situations as well.
Kind of off of that, what are kind of the little things that you've seen Gino and Reese both work on to try to be better?
One thing that I do think that we do a good job here is, we do put a lot of stress on during practice. We do a lot of, I don't know if you guys heard our Mayday situations. It's time's running down, everyone's yelling. And then Coach, usually after Thursday practice, we'll make the whole team get around them. We're yelling and squirting them with water. We do a lot of different things just to try to, when they get in that moment, that's not as big of a deal, you know, because we try to practice that, and we do put a lot of pressure on our guys. I think, you know, I would say that if I was to say my coaching style, I would not say that I'm the most technical with some stuff, but I do think that I put our kids, our players, in the situations where they're going to be mentally challenged, and you know, we're gonna put them in situations. I'm going to put them in situations where they're going to have to show me they can do it in the game, because, you know, you're playing in front of our crowd or any other crowd, you know, 70, 80,000 people. You got to come through, and it's not going to be fun always. You know, it's not going to be easy, but we're going to try to make it where it taxes them.
Finish up with Don.
Kenny, you mentioned a moment ago, you said Ryland is on scholarship.
Yes.
When did that happen?
This last year.
Didn't he come in? Didn't he?
Well, he'll go on this next class is what it will be. So he'll be on the upcoming class. He'll be put on.
Okay. Ask Tim and Zach this: the NCAA rule change where more coaches can actually be on field coaching. How will that change Tyler's role with you?
To an extent, you know, Tyler does. He's unbelievable. Like I tell people all the time, he's the best in the country. You know what he does for us and for me. He'll be more involved with some of the on the field stuff as well as some of the other coaches. The hardest thing in special teams, you know, when you use coaches, is when it's, you know, when fourth down happens and, you know, your offense or defense comes off the field, those coaches go and they're with their players. And so you're left with me and, you know, usually Scoob looking on the field, or someone's out there. You know, we're trying to watch everything, and it's hard because, you know, those guys are coaching. So now it's going to allow us to use more of our, you know, our student assistants and our GAs to basically watch. I'm going to add those guys into the coaching part of it. So it's just that thing that helps you the most is the more eyes, because special teams, you know, you're in a wide open field. You got, you know, 11 guys going, and so it's hard to be able to put one guy watching 5 guys. So now with that rule, I'm going to be able to use a lot more guys during practice and during games watching those players.
Anything else?
Coach, I saw a report that Florida is using a sideline mat. It's like a mat's got 11 dots on it to help account for their players on special teams. Through these first couple of years, I guess, how has that kind of gone for you? I guess just making sure you're all accounted for whenever you are rolling those groups out there, because I know that can be an issue for teams sometimes.
They've had those things for, you know, a long time, but my thing is kind of we've got a 15-yard rule. You know, I usually follow the ball wherever the ball is. I'm 15 yards behind or in front, depending on where we're at. And then our strength coaches, you know, same thing. We put a lot of pressure on those guys when it's a special teams period. Everyone's got a chart, and they know everyone's responsible for certain guys. So, you know, those dots, like I said, it's the only thing. It's, you know, those things like when the game's moving, I don't want to have those dots sitting on the 50-yard line, and we're down, you know, about to go in down to 25. So I've always kind of just, you know, I usually move, and then our strength coaches the depth chart split up, so they got to find those guys, and that's never been an issue, you know, since I've been doing it. But I like our strength guys because those guys, that's their role, and they kind of take it to heart.
All right, thanks, KP.
Thank you, guys.